I have been working for 19 years to bring attention to the negative health effects suffered by the people of New Mexico as a result of being overexposed to radiation from the Trinity test. People in New Mexico have been suffering and dying for, it'll be 79 years this year, without any kind of recognition, acknowledgement, or compensation, while the U.S. government for 34 years has had a fund set up that has been compensating people in other places who are referred to as Downwinders, just hasn't been taking care of us. Because of that work, Senator Lujan has invited me to come to D.C. because over the last year, we've gained as much attention and traction as we've ever had in all the years I've been working on this. Senator Hawley from Missouri, who's a Republican, has joined with Senator Lujan from New Mexico, who's a Democrat, and others, to finally get enough votes in the U.S. Senate to pass the amendments to what's called the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. While they got enough votes last year to pass the bill as an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, the Republican leadership stripped it out of the NDAA. This week, we understand that Senator Hawley has been able to get the leadership both on the Republican side and then with Senator Lujan's assistance, get the leadership on the Democratic side to have a vote on the bill as a standalone bill. It will be historical, and a number of us are going to be in D.C. lobbying and attending the State of the Union address. And so for me, this is an incredible opportunity to speak about the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act with anybody who will listen, members of Congress as an example, the president if there's a possibility for that, to speak to them about this, lobby them for this, and get support so that we can finally bring justice back to the people of New Mexico who've been ignored for 79 years.
I do believe that this is something that, well, I think it was your organization, it might even been you personally, that put it best. Before Japan, they bombed New Mexico. And a lot of people don't realize the fallout that happened after that. It is way past time that these families are compensated for all these terrible cancers and other diseases and health ailments that have fallen as a result of the Trinity bombing.
Absolutely. You know, for years, the whole idea was ignored, not just for years, for decades. But we have scientists coming forward today, people like Dr. Joseph Shanka, who is probably the foremost expert on the Trinity test because he worked on a 10-year study looking at the releases from Trinity. And he actually has come forward in the last few years to bring attention to the devastating fallout after Trinity. And what he has said, and there's going to be a paper published about this very soon that he wrote, but what he says clearly is that Trinity started out to be a test and became a nuclear disaster very quickly. He has said that the fallout from Trinity has never been rivaled, that with all the nuclear accidents in the world that have ever taken place, like Chernobyl, like Fukushima, none of them were as bad as Trinity. And most people think because our government has said it over and over for 79 years that the area was remote and uninhabited. But the truth is, and we know this because we gathered the census data and we did the mapping, what we know is that there were close to 13,000 children, women, and men living in a 50-mile radius to the Trinity site. And if you expand that radius to 150 miles, it encompasses Albuquerque and Santa Fe to the north, El Paso and Ciudad Juarez to the south, and you're talking about over 500,000 people. And so the area was not remote and uninhabited, and the result has been that very many people, a great number of people, were overexposed to radiation from Trinity, and now we're documenting 4 and 5 generations of people with cancer. In my own family, I'm the 4th generation to have cancer since 1945, and now I have a niece that, while she was 23 years old a year ago, she was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And this legacy is going to go on and on. It's not going away. We have the genetics now for having been overexposed to radiation, much like the people in Japan. And you are absolutely right. There's a documentary out now about the people of New Mexico called First We Bombed New Mexico. It's winning awards at film festivals all across the country. We're hoping it'll be on a streaming platform and it'll have a theatrical release soon. But it tells that narrative. It tells, for the first time ever, the history of the people of New Mexico and how they have been sacrificed and how they've suffered for all these years as a result of the government choosing New Mexico to be the home to the Manhattan site and the Trinity test.
It is absolutely heartbreaking that so many people have been ignored all this time, I guess due to lack of convenience, while people in other states are being compensated. It is, I don't even know if there's a word in the English language to describe how disgusting this is. And I commend you for taking a stance and working so hard at bringing this to people's attention, because this is something that people need to know about. It's, it's something that has plagued New Mexico for 79 years. Something needs to give, and I'm glad there's someone like you at the forefront fighting that battle, bringing attention so that people can be recognized, compensated, and maybe treated for these horrible ailments.
Absolutely. And let me just say this much. The U.S. government, the members of Congress, they're no longer challenging the idea that we were harmed. They're simply saying that it's going to cost too much to take care of us. And that is shockingly immoral, because we live in a democracy based on law and order. And you and I and everybody that's listening does not have the opportunity to go out there and recklessly harm other people. And then when we're held to account for it, simply say it's going to cost too much. I don't want to put my resources taking care of the people that I've harmed. We could never get away with that. But that's exactly what the U.S. government is saying to us now. Our Congress is saying that to us now. And let me just stress, this is a bipartisan issue. It's low-hanging fruit. Senator Hawley says it regularly. When the U.S. government damages people, it doesn't walk away from its responsibility for taking care of them. We were American citizens. We were in service to our country all over the Pacific and Europe. My grandfather's buried in Belgium. He died in World War II. New Mexico had the highest number of people enlisted during that time. We had the highest number of casualties. We bought more war bonds. We've given everything we have to this, and it's shockingly immoral that now, when the U.S. government can atone for the mistakes that were made in our quest for nuclear superiority, that they simply say it's going to cost too much. That is not acceptable. And you're right, there really is no term in our language to describe how wrong that is. But as people hear this history, if they remain complacent and do absolutely nothing, then they're part of the problem. They become complicit. So I always tell everybody, join with us in this fight, contact your members of Congress, reach out to your relatives and your friends, ask them to do the same thing. And we are incredibly close now to potentially getting Congress to do the right thing. Everybody plays a part in pushing them. And that's what the average person who's listening can help us do.
Tina Cordova of the Tularosa Basin Downwinders Consortium. Tina, how does someone join this fight, aside from making calls to Congress, like you stated, but how do they maybe support the organization or support you in other ways?
Well, the first and primary way that everybody can support us right now is to go to the website for the documentary. It's called FirstWeBombedNewMexico.com. That's the website, FirstWeBombedNewMexico.com. Make a contribution so that the film can continue to make its way across the country. It is the people's voice in this history, and the more that it is seen, the more it compels people to join with us. We just returned. I returned last night from St. George, Utah. A group of us drove there, uranium workers and downwinders from across New Mexico, Arizona, and even Idaho met there to meet the people of St. George, Utah, who are downwinders of the Nevada test site. Those people are now joined with us in this fight. They understand why it's so necessary. So you can go to First We Bombed New Mexico, make a contribution to the film, sign up to keep abreast of where the film's going to be at. We have a film festival coming up in Las Cruces in the beginning of April, and people will be able to go to the film festival and see the film there. I don't know the dates yet because those haven't been set. And then people can go to our website, which is Trinity Downwinders. So it's plural, trinitydownwinders.com. And you'll be able to find handy links to reaching out to Congress. You can make a contribution, and you can sign up for our newsletter.
Okay, Tina, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know we ended up speaking significantly longer than I promised you, so I apologize, but this is important stuff. It is an honor to speak with you. I've known of you for so long, but it is an honor to speak with you finally. And any way we can help, we are definitely 100% behind you in trying to get some recognition and some change. I mean, people are dying. People have been dying for nearly 80 years. It's time to stop. It's time to say, okay, we did wrong. Let's make it right.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you reaching out to me. We may have good news to report soon. We can only hope.